Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, my name is Mom or Kay from Millennial and Mom, and today is part 2 of my journey with cholangiocarcinoma. All right, now picking back up from where I left off. Remember when I said I heard the news about the cholangiocarcinoma and how the doctor's resident said about the serenity prayer? Okay, I'll touch back on that towards the end of the video. So a little bit about cholangiocarcinoma. It is formed in the bile, and the bile sits underneath the liver, and it branches out into 3 parts. But what I was advised was mine would be stage at a 3 to 4, like in between there, but the doctors weren't really sure. They were waiting for the results of the liver biopsy and the liver brushing to come back. They did mention after the brushing and the biopsy came back that not all the cells were cancerous, but there was enough cancer cells in there to stage me the way they did, and it was official. I did have cancer, and it was cholangiocarcinoma. And I was advised not to Google anything about cholangiocarcinoma because, you might go down a rabbit hole and stuff like that. I mean, what else was I gonna do? Because nobody else was talking to me. And honestly, that was the only thing I had to do because there was no TV. There was nothing but be on my phone, so that's what I chose to do. Well, when I Googled it, there was really not that much information about it. And the information about cholangiocarcinoma I saw range from, let's say, 2014 through roughly 2019. There's some things on there now through the cholangiocarcinoma.org foundation, but as far as Google goes, not really. And after learning that, it was so rare, and you do think about how it's going to be, for your life. Is your life going to continue to have a little bit of normalcy, or would you have a life at all, And I never focused on the why me. I always focus on me wanting to be a testimony, wanting to live. I was just like, I'm not going to say I was in any type of I don't have cancer type of thing, but it is there is a 4 stages of a grief process. You do grieve, at least I did. I was not in denial, but denial of this really isn't cancer. This must be a fluke kind of thing. But at the same time, I was like, nope, I'm not going down that way. I was going to be a fighter, so that was always what I would say about that. Nothing they were saying to me was registering at all, but I'm I'm fighting whatever this is and going from there. Okay, so I was in the hospital the first time. It was many times that I was in the hospital over the last year, but the next 7 days that I was in there were filled with the emergency surgery, CT scans, MRI scans, ultrasounds, lab work every 2 hours. I literally saw 18 different doctors of different specialties ask me all kind of questions about my personal medical history, family history, things like that. And you know what? There was nothing new that I could give them because, I never even had as much as high blood pressure. I never had anything other than 2 babies, natural births, many, they're in their late 20s at the time. So I didn't have anything. And it was so overwhelming. I remember, one of those doctors saying to me, well, you don't have an oncologist? What do you mean do I have an oncologist? Am I supposed to have an oncologist on speed dial? I mean, I literally said that, and I wasn't trying to be rude or mean. But after hearing so many questions and just getting bombarded with, well, how come you don't know, or how come you don't have this, or how come because I've just never had. I mean, and then I work in the medical field anyways. Okay, I'm not in the, I might not have the qualification that they have, but, if I'm telling you I don't have any medical history of anything and never have, and I'm always having to have a physical based off the job that I do, there was nothing else I can give you. And it kind of seemed like they weren't believing me. But, again, if only 20,000 people a year, per year, think about that. That is 1 in, can't do the math like that, maybe not even 1, 0.1 out of millions of people, or even billions in the United States. So it really was a lot. It really, It was just so much. There was times when I was in a hospital getting those scans, and when I tell you all the times that I was just thinking like, I need to get out of here. I really want someone to give me a firm, definitive answer. One time I even gave like 15 vials of blood at the same time for different medical markers, genetic markers, you name it, they were testing for it. Okay, so let me jump you to the when I finally get discharged after all that. When I get discharged, I was discharged with instructions because, as mentioned in the first video, I had an external stent drain. Now, with this type of cancer, you have a drain. It's either internal or external. I was advised it was external is because that the bile wasn't open and your body needed help to get out all the extras. Because also with cholangiocarcinoma, your skin itches, your eyes turn yellow, because my eyes were just as yellow as a highlighter pen. Even going back on some older videos that we made, I could see like my eyes, but again, I thought it was like allergy season, so I didn't know. But again, like I said, with that discharge, they gave me instructions on how to take care of my external, at the time, drain. And the drainage bag was as big as if anyone's familiar with IV, it was as big as an IV bag that held about 600 cc's, or I would say like a quart of milk, not a gallon, not a half gallon, but a quart of milk, okay? And I had to keep track every 2 hours of how much it was draining when I got home, and keep a journal so at my next appointment in like 10 days to see what was going on, or else I had to come back for another surgery because something wasn't doing right or whatever in my body. Okay, so after being home for 3 days and have to adjust, like laying on my back to go to sleep. I'm not a back sleeper. I'm normally like a stomach or side sleeper, but this drainage bag was okay to my stomach, and then the line was so long that you had to safety pin it to like your clothes if you went out. It was as long as past my knees. That's how long it was, because you had to have gravity pulling the bile down. But after 3 days, I started to lose my appetite. I really didn't have one anyways. I started to just, smells were different. I just started not to feel good about anything. And then one evening, while I was talking to Millennial, I passed out. And I didn't wake up until the paramedics were there. And I woke up with Millennial, or Cassandra, being terrified. And I can hear her, even though I'm coming to, I can hear her talking on the phone to my parents, which are her grandparents, who do live in town, probably about 30 minutes away. And she was hysterical, as she should be. Okay, she was saying, the paramedics are here, they're gonna take mom back to the hospital, and things like that. And I had enough strength to say at that time, you know what, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'll just go to the hospital so they can do their testing and see what's going on and stuff like that. I'm like, tell your grandparents it's all right, you know, only one person could come anyway, so it's okay. You'll give them updates, okay? And the paramedics are trying to get her to calm down too, and I'm just talking to her. And before they take me out, I'm like, well, can she ride an ambulance with me too? And they said no. Now the hospital, like I said in the last video, was just built 6 months prior, and it's not even 10 minutes from home. And they were like, no, she can't come. And she is just through the roof. And I'm nervous because, again, I was just diagnosed like 10 days ago. Like, oh my gosh, like what is going on? Like, am I taking a turn for the worst, right? And when they told her no, and the panic in her eyes and the panic in her voice, I was like, you know what? Just get you a snack, you know, get yourself together. And when you come down, come up to the hospital. You can either take your car or you take mine. And she was like, okay. And I'm like, I'll be okay. I promise. I'll be all right. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love your grandma. I love your grandfather, your brother. I love everybody. So, you know, it'll be all right. And as soon as I got on that ambulance, I lost it. I lost it because the look in her eye, and I could just imagine my parents on the phone too. and I'm the baby of the family. I'm the only girl sibling. That was a lot. That really was a lot. And even though I lost it in that ambulance, I was saying to God at the same time, I'm going to be the testimony. I'm going to beat this. I'm going to beat it. Whatever is going on, I'm going to beat it. I know you're going to have me beat this because I didn't come this far for nothing. And I'm going to have that milestone birthday. I'm going to have it. So that's what I was saying to get myself through. I was really, leaning on my own words and leaning towards God too. And so it's just trying to get past that. So anyways, when I get to the hospital, when I get to the emergency room, like I said, it had only been 10 days. So I'm fresh out. So when they look up my chart when I get there, and besides the ambulance calls it in before you get there anyways, the emergency room doctors were there waiting on me because they remembered me, because I'm truly a unique case that none of them have ever seen. They've only heard of, And I get there, and of course, I'm already hooked up to an IV, and they draw my blood. And maybe like an hour later, they tell me, Miss, you have sepsis. And I was like, what? Sepsis. Now, I knew what sepsis was. I'm like, now, how did I get sepsis? Sepsis is a blood infection. And I'm like, thinking to myself, I got sepsis, and I was just at this hospital like literally 3.5 days ago. This is the 4th full day. And all the blood that they took, no signs of infection ever was in my blood. That's what I'm thinking. Listen, I'll never know if it was in my blood when I left or not, but more likely it was. That was another 2 weeks in the hospital, because now you have to get rid of the infection in your blood. They have to monitor the bile that's coming out and go from there. It was truly a journey. It was truly a journey. The first month was such a blur. But anyways, so moving on from that, the next morning, one of the 18 doctors that I saw in my original time there, I'm not going to call his name, but it was one of the original doctors and an anesthesiologist who came to see me. And he was saying how there's positive signs and there's negative signs to the biopsy. Like I mentioned earlier, all the cells they took weren't cancerous, which is good, but you still have cancer. And he said, but you know what? I'm going to fight for you, because I believe with your health background of being healthy. I mean, yeah, I was overweight. Yeah, I'm still kind of on the heavier side, but that's okay. Listen, if y'all didn't know or haven't noticed, I've lost about, and for those of you who don't know me, I have lost a total of 85 pounds. Now, I put on 10, but 85. But this doctor said that if he didn't believe in me and how I didn't already have a healthy journey other than me being, overweight, he wouldn't even recommend me going further in the process because of this rare type of cancer. Now, I believe this was based off the things that they have learned or not learned in medical school because it's so rare, and maybe previously they didn't have anything or anything well known treatment wise that would help or assist. But he told me if he didn't believe it, I would have a successful journey or have a shot at having a successful journey. He wouldn't even recommend chemo. He wouldn't recommend it at all. And again, I cried. I did, I cried. Because that was the first time I heard something positive. I know cancer is not positive, but that's the first time I heard something positive from a doctor, that they said that they would fight for me, fight for my treatment, fight for everything, because, possibility of success, if not long-term, enough time added, with value. And even the anesthesiologist said that to me too. And, when I come up on my 1 year, I plan on seeing those two doctors, the original ones, to show them me and where I'm at now. But anyways, he had mentioned to me, the doctor that said he would fight for me. that he heard what his resident said to me, and in the manner in which she said it, because it was a female resident, what she said to me. And here I go crying again. Now, see, these are sensitive times. I'm even still a little bit more sensitive now. Not as sensitive as I was, because you really think that life really might be cut short on you. And I do realize God has the final say, but sometimes when you hear of a particular diagnosis or something, you just kind of like, that just kind of like speeds up for you. Well, at least for me. All right, so he said I learned about it, and he had discussed it with her, and every doctor doesn't have that bedside manner. And I was thinking, I really hope not. I really hope not, through tears and stuff like that. And even the anesthesiologist was like, you know what? We work for you, the patient. You don't work for us, we work for you. And I was happy to hear that. And, I told them, I said, you or whoever, doctors, can't and shouldn't treat everybody like a patient or a scenario you read out of a book. Because everybody's different. Everybody responds to things different. I don't care if it's a cold or a flu or a stomach ache. Everybody responds to things differently. And you shouldn't treat people the way that you think you should treat people. You should treat people as an individual, especially going through a crisis like this. And then also I said, well, is the resident here working today? He said, yes, she is. I said, okay. Well, I would like to speak to her then, if you don't mind. So he left, and a little while later he came back with her. And she came in and she gave a little apology. It didn't sound sincere, because truly her bedside manner, and she didn't have any. And I don't, she just had like a dry tone, kind of like that Clear Eyes commercial, like, or, just, or a Bueller kind of thing. That was her tone. That's what I took from it. And then, you know what I told her? I said, you know what? For that serenity prayer, I said, let me tell you something. I said, I came, and still do, come from a loving, God-fearing household. And I learned the serenity prayer at an early age. And I live by the serenity prayer every day. And I taught my 2 children the serenity prayer since they were toddlers. And here's a fun fact. My daughter, a millennial, has a serenity prayer tattooed on her. We are reminded every day of the serenity prayer. This is not something that is just something that comes and goes for me. And for the future, today, effective immediately, I had to pull that card. You are no longer welcome on any rounds or privy to any information that's related to me. And, I guess she was trying to explain her case, but I wasn't trying to hear it. And the doctor, which was actually her supervisor, excused her from the room. And that was it. So I'm going to leave it here for this part 2. And then in part 3, I will share my journey. I will speed it up a little bit. I would tell you about my chemo journey, meeting my 2nd level oncologist, and the therapy, how long it took, and where I am now, and my prognosis now at any particular staging at this level. So again, thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for all the comments that you gave me and the encouragement in part 1. I hope you share, like, and comment on this video as well. I enjoy reading your comments and responding to everyone. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you all again for watching. And as always, live simply, be grateful.